Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I'm delighted to be talking with comics creator, creative visionary, one might say, in the world of comics and pulp, Jay Piscopo. Jay, thank you for jumping in and joining.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Glad to be talking with you. And I really do appreciate the work you've done in the comics world and kind of comics and pulp. So glad to be talking about that with you today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What was it that initially led you to comics? How did you decide that was a space you wanted to create in?
Oh, gee. I guess it was never not growing up, just it was all my fondest memories as a child were around drawing superheroes and superhero cartoons. When I found Super Friends, I thought I freaked out. I thought that was made especially for me. So it's just
Mhm.
always been a part of my life.
Yeah, yeah. Any initial characters that really sparked your creativity?
Well, the Flash, I think bright red costumes. I just love the Flash and Daredevil. Having full red costumes. Kind of, when I think back, those are the ones that kind of resonate. Though, again, well, he had a red costume too. But my first superhero, my first comic book was Adam Strange. When
Oh,
I
nice.
was
Yeah.
when I was very little, going to go get a haircut. The was in a small town here in Maine, and the barber he had a big stack of comic books, but they must have been from his son or someone they knew because they were all Adam Strange, and I had never seen a comic book before,
Hmm.
so I assumed that there was just Adam Strange was just in comic books. It's just like that was the only comic book hero there was. But I remember, no, I wasn't, I was under maybe four or so and could barely read it, and I could still figure out what was going on. That's what I really liked about
Yeah, yeah. Any, as you stepped into the world of creativity, any influences that have kind of informed your style and approach?
it. Oh well, in terms of training to make comics, I'm pretty much self-taught, and I have a background in advertising, fine art more,
Mhm.
and with comics, um, I come almost, I don't call it strict, but I follow several creators. When I run into a problem, I go look how they solved. I figured it out. And it's Jack Kirby, Wally Wood, Alex Toth, Steve Ditko, and
Hmm.
Morton. I love Morton Meskin a lot. In fact, I wish I could just, and this is maybe something to develop is where I could just do some books where it looks like just like Morton Meskin kind of stuff. I just did something called, well, I didn't just do it, just it's going to be appearing on its Kickstarter soon. But a couple of books I did over the last couple of years called Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah.
And you can see the influence there. It's like, that's when I'm drawing freehand, you're seeing the Morton Meskin kind of stuff come out. Wally Wood.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Love the Cthulhu seems to meet everybody. So love how that character in that world of the Eldritch has been brought into comics too. It's not quite pulp, but it also is in a way with that horror genre and some of those elements that are mingling in. It feels very Edgar Allan Poe meets pulp to me.
Scott Harris King is the creator and writer, really melded very well, bringing in Cthulhu into the golden age,
Hmm.
golden age public domain superhero kind of genre. So that was one thing I really liked. It was really fun for me to work on because was all for what he was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made it easier to draw.
How did you connect with Moonstone and how has that collaboration been for you?
Great. Well, we've been worked over the years off and on. The first time I worked with them was with on the Spider. Martin Powell had gotten me a couple jobs, some coloring jobs. So
Hmm.
there was spiders I did the color for. It basically was like a monochromatic with a spot red color, kind of interesting. That was a kind of fun kind of challenge to do, and which led to me doing two of the Halloween books, the Spider versus the Werewolf, and the Phantom Detective
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
and Frankenstein. So yeah, that kind of led to that, and then for did some things off and on for the years, and did the Captain Midnight book that we did with Brian Augustine. That
Yeah,
was yeah, it makes me a little sad that Brian's passed on, and he was a great teacher to me and a great friend. And yeah, and just recently I just gotten back in touch and asked, I heard they needed covers and started working on some Kolchak
nice,
stuff. And now
nice,
the current thing I'm working on right now is something called Paladins, and it's a group book um, with it's a tech it's pulp with 10 illustrations and 3 covers I just did, and it features Kygor and Domino Lady, a magician, mysterious kind of guy, kind of Ravenwood. I just learned about that they created.
uh,
2 really interesting characters. One, they're sort of like one's a female ninja, and the other's a Hawaiian warrior princess kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. They're kind of working the story, so it's been fun.
cool, cool. I love how so many types of characters and approaches. I love how that all mingles in with comics and pulp.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the weirder the better. I think sometimes it's like then if the challenge is the creator is going to kind of smooth it out. So you're not. There's only so many conceits you can put in something, but comics seems to allow a lot of. You can put a lot of weird stuff. Like in the Cthulhu book, the Cthulhu's fighting. There's a character that Scott found from the '40s named Granny Gumshoe, and she's
Mhm.
she's basically piloting the um, Statue of Liberty as a mecha, and they're having a fight, but like a kaiju fight between Statue of Liberty and Cthulhu. So where
Nice,
else could
nice.
you do such a thing? Comic book.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Now you mentioned Martin Powell. He's been on the show a couple of times and just a wonderful guy. So I imagine collaborating with him and learning from him has also been positive just from every experience I've had with him on here.
Oh, absolutely. The werewolf book was one of my favorite things that we've done. So
Yeah.
and yeah, and all writers, that's the thing is like I write myself, but working with other writers, like right now we're working on another Domino Lady book with Moonstone with Bobby Nash.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm learning his style too as I'm going on. So it's interesting learning the styles of the different writers and then kind of coming in. I think the artist in a lot of these cases is sort of like a director, depending on the degree of which how much the writer describes a scene and describes certain things. It's like once it gets in the artist's hand, they have to kind of figure out how to make it flow.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just sort of that's tell this to actually tell the story, because the pictures are telling the story and the words are then it's almost like a reverse process where you start with a script, but then when you've got the script, the first thing you're going to see are the visuals, and that's what's going to tell that story. So that's the thing I like most about comics, that collaboration, getting it right.
Very cool. Yeah. Any other really fruitful collaborators that you would mention before we talk a little bit about what's next on the horizon for you?
Well, I mean, so I brought up Brian before. Brian taught me so much. He was one of the last editors to work with Julie Schwartz to learn the DC's eight page formula,
Hmm.
because DC did so many 8 page stories for so many different genres and stuff, and it's kind of a place I've been obsessed lately, because of just being one person, not being able to think out a lot of work. I want to be able to do things in 8 page segments, and that was one of the great things I learned from him.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Definitely a legend and somebody who was a big part of my reading growing up as well.
Oh yeah.
Is there a particular character, story, or world that you haven't had your creative touch on that you'd like to approach?
Well, it's interesting. Moonstone's got the Phantom, or partially uses the Phantom. I would love to do something with the Phantom.
Yeah. Yeah, great
Um,
character.
that's just a great. I think he's like the first superhero. really. Or costume superhero kind of. I don't know, I'm mixing that up with something. No, I'm mixing it with Zorro or something. But he's definitely up there with one of the first costume characters, and also being a newspaper strip. He's very unique. He just has a lot of unique things, and I like the sort of the legacy, how he's a legacy character, how he's kind of it's been something that's been passed on since the pirate days and this pirate stuff. I mean, it's an incredible character. The I've had a few friends who had conversations where they hate his costume. They're like, this is so numb. And when you see the movie,
Hmm.
it's a hard sell. That's hard, even though they put a lot of African symbols and things like that. But in the comics, it works. It just that weird mask that he wears and everything. It's just you got to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am curious about what is next. You mentioned you're busy with Moonstone, and this team book that you're working on, and I'm also curious about where people can connect with you if they want to check out your work, if they want to purchase books, if they want to check out commissions and your information on that. So any
Oh, great.
convention spaces or online spaces where people can go.
Well, I got a friend, Chris Watts, and he helps me publish. And he's a great writer and editor. And if you go to Drive Through Comics, you should be able to find some. Just put my name in there. And it's a public domain comics. Is the name of the company that we use for putting. We put together collections, and I'll do some covers and a few. Um, I got a couple in there where I do some small stories, and it's attached to like reprint work, like reprints from the golden age. Also, Facebook is a place I get a lot of work. A lot of people seem to find me there, and so seek me out and just put public message, private message me. You know,
Sounds
it's good. Um, in terms of stuff I'm doing now, I'm pretty much loaded up on the Moonstone work right now. Though there's something I could mention that'd be kind of fun to check out. There's a website called Apparel Impact, and they're out of New Hampshire, and they recycle clothing. And I made them a comic book and created a whole group of superheroes for them, led by
Oh,
a
cool.
character named Major Impact, who's a very very heavily influenced by the movie version of Captain America in terms of his visuals and things like that. So yeah, if you want to check that out, that's an interesting project where it's being distributed in schools in 3 different states in New England, and something I'd like to get back into. I have kind of a background in doing educational software when I was doing advertising. I was worked at a place called Tom Snyder Productions. Uh, but if people go on the web and check all those things out, they can find versions of that stuff I did for characters called Fizz and Martina. I did for Tom Snyder. And that's still available. But that's educational stuff. Um, Trying to think anything else.
I love the range of what you've worked on too. That's very cool.
Yeah, thank you. It's because at a really young age, I really wanted to try to find work. And when I was here in Portland, Maine, when I was about 16, 17, 18 years old, I used to go out and just knock on doors of ad agencies where there used to be a lot of ad agencies here in Portland. And Portland's as a little weird town. It's got these little bubbles of activity or bubbles of industries that come up, and one of them was advertising when I was at that age, when I was in my teens, and that's sort of how I got into it. And it was the tail end of the Mad Men years, so it was, computers hadn't been used yet, and so I
Mhm.
learned comps, magic marker comps, things like that. So it kind of opened me up to do a range of things for my life.
Cool, cool. Well, when I post this, I usually post on Facebook, so I'll be sure and tag you so that folks can connect directly there on the book as well. And
Oh,
glad
awesome.
to have you back anytime. I've enjoyed the conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, but my mind's a little muddled here. I keep on thinking this some other stuff that is coming up, but we'll get in touch and we can. Oh, I should say this. We're going to be. Had a company called Nemo Toys where was connected to Captain Eli, where we made Mego figures,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and there's a friend of mine, Nick Nat Cataleros in New York, and we're going to try to get that going. So maybe once that's going again, we can talk again and talk
I
about
would
that.
love that. I would
I'll show
love
you
that.
actually,
Absolutely.
here. I'll show you really quick, and then just
Cool.
pretty total dead air. But this is one of the figures we're doing. This is the Sea Ghost,
Oh, awesome.
and
Very
he's got new some new accessories here with a trident and a cape, and hopefully some nice packaging and stuff is over it. So, but anyway,
cool. Yeah.
sorry to mess up the
No, that's awesome. That's
step
awesome.
out of camera, but I wanted to
Um,
show you.
yeah, let's definitely plan on a Mego centered episode. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
well.
Migos had a weird. I think we've been a part of that comeback that started a few years ago, where people there have been weird creators like me. Started. We grew up with Amigos, and luckily, Paul Clark. If everyone wants to check out how to make Migo customs, is to check out Paul Clark. It's called Dr. Migos Custom Migos. Check that out on the web.
Well, may the conversation continue.